Hey, so I'm Andrea. I'm going to be talking about Roundguard. I'm the designer. I also do the art. There we go. That's my next button. Okay, so this talk is about systems of luck and chance, and more specifically, like in Roundguard, how we use physics as a system of chance. And I kind of want to leave us all with thinking about, I don't know, what else could we be using for these systems? So, quick overview of Roundguard for those of you who haven't seen it. It is a roguelike inspired game, a roguelike maybe, I don't know. It's a game where you're exploring a procedurally generated dungeon, you're defeating monsters with complex behavior, you're picking up loot, you're trying to survive the constant threat of permadeath, all that good stuff. It is turn-based, kind of. I'll get back to that. But movement is where things get very different. Instead of moving your hero on a grid, you are loading them into a ballista, aiming and firing them into a dungeon to bounce around. Oh, does my movie play? Okay, so there we go. There's my hero bouncing through the dungeon. Thank you. So, so basically it's like Peggle plus a roguelike. Okay, now you know about Roundguard. Let's talk about luck. So, like all of us, I'm sure, in this room, we very much believe in, pray to the random number generator. We use it throughout our systems for, dungeon generation, loot drops. We've got item properties with things like, 25% chance to polymorph an enemy into a frog when you hit them. That kind of good stuff. But as a druid practitioner, I also like to draw from the natural world, right? And so that's where physics comes into play here. We use physics in the hero movement to represent something that could be expressed as hero's percent chance to hit or percent chance to evade an enemy. You could say physics is not a chance-based system at all, right? Physics is not random, and you'd be absolutely correct. So this is me cranking up my aim prediction system all the way, way beyond where it would go in the game. And you can see that the computer knows exactly where the hero is going to go, and she does follow that line. We're not doing any weird random chances under the hood on where your bounces end up. It's a physics system. But also things like Plinko exist, right? And this guy right here obviously is feeling very lucky. So what's going on here? So while physics isn't a system of chance, I guess, let's broaden that term to say it's a system of uncertainty, which really is like any system that is that complicated that we can't really model it out. I mean, physics is intuitive enough that we know what's going on, but once you get to several bounces, it becomes a mess in our head, right? And so there's a good deal of uncertainty there, and your decision-making process comes from moves from decided outcomes to looking at more what are the likely outcomes here. So let's walk through that process in a shot. So winding back to that shot I showed earlier, this is the normal length of our aim prediction line. So I am 100% certain at this point I'm going to be bouncing off of that pot right there. I'm pretty comfortable with the system, so I can draw a pretty good line here in my head. I'm confident I'm going to be hitting that orc right over there. But after this point, things start to get a lot more complicated. I think the momentum's going to carry me forward. I'm probably going to be bouncing off that way towards the middle of the screen. There's still a good chance in my head, though. I might reflect back. I'm hitting him kind of at the top angle of his head. Maybe I'll go down that left side of the screen. So then my brain starts to shift into these sort of areas of likeliness. I'm like, yeah, okay, most likely I'm bouncing around the middle. I'm maybe picking up some of those health pots, hitting those goblins. There's a chance possible that I'm bouncing back down along the left side of the screen. I see there's some orcs over there. They hit harder. I'm already at half health. Maybe that'll make me reconsider this move. I'm pretty positive I'm not going to be over there on the right side of the screen, which, as I look over there are some mana pots. I am full on mana right now, so that's a good thing. I don't want to waste those resources. That also means this is a good turn for me to start using some skills. And that kind of brings us to the second half of a Roundguard turn, which is, we've got this planning prediction phase. And then there's the reaction phase, where you're reacting with your skills. So every hero, we've got a few different classes. They each have access to a handful of different skills they can pick up. And you can use them while you're bouncing around. So in this case, I'm taking a pretty mediocre shot and using the rogue's double jump to avoid that the spikes down at the bottom, taking advantage of that height that I gained to improvise, get a shot in on that red spider, and then I got a good bounce on the kitchen at the end there. Good shot. So this is obviously very different of a feeling from a classic grid-based roguelike. In a classic grid-based roguelike, you have 100% control over your hero's movement. The uncertainty comes into play with how are the enemies moving and behaving, right? In Roundguard, we've kind of flipped that on its head. So whereas the enemies are very predictable, they are often either completely stationary or they are moving along very set paths. Their behaviors may be complex, but once you've learned them, they do the same behaviors under the same set conditions. But the uncertainty is really coming into play with your hero's movement, and it's requiring you to react to that your own unpredictability. So I think there's a very different textural feel here. You're having to embrace that uncertainty in yourself. You're having to kind of give in to the whims of physics a bit and learn how to react to your own unpredictability. I think it creates a bunch of drama and surprise where you go oh my God, what did I just do? Which is fun. But I also think it's interesting at a high level, we're still using a lot of the same brain patterns, right, of trying to make a prediction in a very unpredictable world, and then having to react when things don't necessarily go to plan. And I think that's one of the real beauties of roguelikes to me, is that real emphasis on improvisation. You can take a game like Mario and really rehearse a level over and over again, memorize, where you need to make those jumps, where the enemies are coming in. It's about really focusing on perfect execution. And a Spelunky player doesn't have the luxury of memorization. Instead, really what they need to do is really tease apart the underlying principles of the game, and get build up a palette of reactions to all of the different contexts. And I think ultimately that means really good roguelike players know the design of the games that they're playing as well as the game designers do. Or frankly, from our beta players, there have been plenty of times when they have taught me implications of our game design. And I think that's super awesome. So yeah, all of this is really coming from these systems of uncertainty. So like I said, we're using random number generators. They're often constrained in ways to sort of simulate a die roll, a bag pull, a deck shuffle. We're also using physics in the bounce of the hero's movement. We have another expression of physics in the game. There's a big sort of wheel of fortune moment where you get to spin a wheel and get a trinket. But what else is out there? What else are you using in your games? Or what could you be using as systems of uncertainty? And what kind of textures, what kind of feelings does that make for players? I don't have these answers. I would love to hear these ideas from you, but I have some ideas of some other places to look for inspiration besides this room. Obviously, gambling is something that is, focused on uncertainty. Games, they go hand in hand. We've done a pretty good job of mining a ton of systems from gambling, but are there some systems in there that have been overlooked? Gambling spreads across all cultures, and maybe there's some interesting things that we haven't pulled apart yet. Science obviously deals regularly in very complex models I know a lot of you here in the room are doing amazing things with artificial intelligence and machine learning and neural networks and things that I don't understand well enough to summarize, and I would love to learn more about. There's also, human psychology models. Jim's talk was awesome on relationships. I think that's a really cool place to play. There's a ton of things here and other complex models, like, is there some gameplay mechanics in the system of genetic mutation or climate models or whatever. I don't know. I think religion is also a really fun place to look. Humans have a long history of exploring fortune telling and divination. If you want to go down a fun Wikipedia rabbit hole, I'd suggest looking up claromancy. It's the method of divination where you take random outputs like lots, pulling of lots, or throwing of beans and things like that, and use that to interpret the will of God. There are a bunch of very interesting systems in there. It might be some cool game mechanics that we could find. So thank you. If you want to learn more about Roundguard, we're up at wonderbellygames.com. And if you ever want to talk about any of the systems of uncertainty, I would love to hear more, so give me a shout. I know I used a bunch of time with technical difficulties.
Okay, we have time for a question.
Okay, cool.
If anyone has any. Cool. You want to switch over the talks?
Hi, I would say players are the main thing missing from that list of inputs of uncertainty, and a big factor in PvP games comes from that, but also co-op experiences.
Absolutely, yeah. That's a great call. Multiplayer experiences.
In some of the games that we've worked on, we do a lot of massaging randomness so that players don't feel bad about outlier experiences.
Yeah.
Do you find yourself doing any of that with physics-based systems?
So we don't, like I said, we don't do any under the hood. We don't do, I know Peggle did some things where it would correct a bounce. We don't do any of that. We have some things where we do slowdowns at certain moments when we know it's going to be very dramatic, like a near miss, or you're coming in for the final hit. Those can be times that can give the player a little bit of extra, a moment to react. Yeah.
Cool. Thank you so much.